Gary took his phone and keys from his pocket and handed them to the stone-faced security guard at the front desk. "They'll be returned to you at the end of your visit." "Okay. Physical contact is not allowed." "Understood. Your visit will last 1 hour." He had no idea why he had come. She had abandoned him. Yet the irony was that he never expected to see or hear from her again, mostly because he blamed himself for their breakup. Even if she had stayed and agreed to marry him, he couldn't give her any children due to injuries he sustained in a motorcycle accident when he was younger. He was afraid to tell her at the time. And now she'd been blowing up his phone for the past few days, and he'd refused to talk to her. He thought about changing his phone number, but he didn't want to deal with the hassle of notifying his clients and business partners, as well as replacing his business cards. He could have blocked the number, which would have stopped the calls at least temporarily. There had to be something urgent for her to go to such lengths to reach him. Perhaps she hadn't moved on as he had thought. He sat and mentally rehearsed the lines he wanted to say to her. "Gary?" He looked up the moment he heard her voice. Patrice stood before him. He stiffened his spine from where he was sitting. It amazed him how beautiful she was, even in her orange prison jumper that was a size too big. She had a cinnamon brown complexion, the whitest teeth, and hazel-colored eyes that glistened with warmth and mystery. In the months following their breakup, he found himself daydreaming about her and the life they could have had with the children they would have adopted. Seeing her now, Gary wished he could take her into his arms and hold her forever. If the truth be told, he still loved her, while still feeling an incredible amount of disdain for what she had done to him. If you're listening to this story, tell me where you're from in the comments. And thank you for taking your time out. I appreciate you tuning in. He was disappointed when he discovered she was stealing money from him. If she had asked him, he would have given her the money without hesitation. But it was her pretending to be pregnant that broke the camel's back. If it were true, he knew he couldn't have fathered her unborn child, which would have meant one thing. She had cheated on him. But with whom? And then suddenly, she vanished without a trace. What could she say to him that would ease the pain she'd caused? It was that same pain he carried into the next relationship after her. Of course, that relationship didn't work out because he still carried a torch for Patrice. And now, they were strangers staring at each other, perhaps making up for lost time. "Patrice," Gary lifted a brow. "I'm really glad to see you. I didn't think you wanted to talk to me because you refused to accept my calls," Patrice said, sliding into the chair across from him. "Yeah, I'm sorry about that," Gary replied. "I wasn't ready to talk. I appreciate you coming. I'm sure this is all a surprise for you. Why are you here?" "I'm here because, well, I have no one to blame except myself." "What happened?" "I took money from someone." Gary was blindsided by her admission and he didn't know what to think. He attempted to connect the dots but came up empty-handed. "Who else did you steal money from?" He waited patiently for her to answer. "Well, I didn't steal their money." Patrice paused. "I obtained it under false pretenses." Gary leaned forward with a deep scowl on his face. His eyes narrowed as he processed her statement. "And that's why you're here?" Gary asked. "Yes." "Back up a minute," Gary said. "Tell me what happened." Patrice gave him a quick rundown of what happened with Stephen after the kidnapping of her sister. Hearing her confession was one for the books. Gary was glad that he came to see Patrice because it wasn't a conversation to be had over the phone. He needed to look directly into her eyes as she spoke about what she had done. Yet his love for her was clawing its way into his heart again. "Why didn't you tell me? I could have helped you. It was a lot of money and I wasn't in a position to pay you back." "That's why I came up with a bogus plan to get the money from Stephen." Gary rubbed his temples. There was no excuse that could make up for Stephen's betrayal. The funny thing is, Stephen downplayed the whole thing because he had every reason to. He watched Patrice leave the room, and the door closed behind her. The visit had ended. After he put cash on her books, he checked the time. He had one more stop before he headed home. Gary arrived at Quatroplex shortly after 6 p.m. He knew that Stephen was evaluating the final set of 3D digital billboards that had been installed. Gary found Stephen in his office. "Hey man, you caught me just in time," Stephen said as he stood up. "I'm heading home." Gary approached Stephen and blindsided him with a swift right hook to the jaw. He watched as Stephen stumbled backward, almost falling into his chair. Gary knew he was acting completely out of character, but Stephen needed to feel what he was feeling in the moment. He could see Stephen's confusion as he glared back at him. You should have told me about Patrice, Gary said with clenched teeth as he rubbed his knuckles. I saw her today. She told me everything. I'm sorry, man, Stephen said, as he dabbed a small amount of blood from his mouth with his sleeve. I had no idea you were dating her. Gary shook his head. I feel sorry for your wife. I deserve that, Stephen said. For what it's worth, ever since then, I've been faithful to Camille. Gary took a deep breath to gather his thoughts. He stared at Stephen a moment longer. We'll conduct business as usual, but you and I are no longer friends, he scoffed. You can thank yourself for that. Gary walked off and headed back to his car. He hadn't regretted his decision to partner with Stephen in business, at least not yet. He knew he had gotten the partnership right. The friendship, not so much. Thank you for listening until the end. If this story resonated with you, leave me a comment. Tell me what you liked and what you didn't like. I want to hear how it touched you. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so you never miss one of my excerpts from As Long as I Trust in the Talk to God series.